Hey, good evening. How are you all doing? And it's the Wild Medicine duo here. Hey Claire, how are you? You back
Jazz
from your holidays?
back from my holidays, full of vitamin D, sunshine that isn't from a bottle. So yeah, feeling full of energy and just like super glad to be back to the wind and the rain and the gales. But
I
yeah, happy that it's like in bulk and the light is returning, and yeah, we're moving steadily towards the busier times where all good plants have finished hibernating.
yeah, I know. So, did you do any foraging when you were over there?
Not loads of actual foraging. I definitely did a lot of looking at plants and being very interested by a lot of the plant species while I was over. So I was over in La Palma on the Canary Isles, which is
Uh-huh.
basically an island that is um, kind of it's an extinct volcano, but there's also some active volcanoes in the south of the island as well. So the soil is really, mineral rich. It's the steepest island in the world, so there's these crazy, cliffs, and the geology is amazing. And because it's quite high in the middle, it's also quite green and quite lush. So believe it or not, there was things like nettles growing in the crater.
Really?
Yeah, different species of willow and laurel. There was the most incredible Canarian pine forest, where they have the bark of these pine trees is it's in kind of really fine layers, so it's incredibly insulating to the inner cambium, the tender part of the tree. So it actually helps to protect them from the forest fires that they get over there quite frequently. And of course, when the tree's injured, it produces this resin, which has medicinal properties. Like all pines contain, these medicinal properties. So it's just incredible to be over there in a very different landscape, and meeting all the different plants that thrive in those kind of climates.
Ah, I mean, the pine tree, because that's where turpentine comes from, which I
Mm.
always find, like I think people think of turps as a kind of paint stripper, but in actual fact, as an oil, it's very powerful, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. And so the pine resin contains lots of different volatile compounds, and basically trees produce resins as a form of defense. So it's a kind of barrier that they use for healing and in order to protect them from infection. And
Mhm.
surprise, surprise, we can also apply those properties to the human body. So, pine and conifers and resinous plants tend to have antimicrobial properties within the human body as well. So they're often antifungal, they're often antibacterial or antiviral. And, in terms of traditional practice as well, we tend to use pine and resins and incense as a kind of oil to burn, and we often use that in our spiritual practices as well to kind of help as a form of protection and to help deepen the breath and enhance lung function as well. So yeah, powerful stuff. Tree medicine.
Yeah, so you can I mean, there's nothing more beautiful, I think, than walking into the pine forest and smelling
Yeah.
I just love that. There's a really
Yeah.
lovely one called Barmoloth. And then so you can smell it, you can also ingest it, and then obviously you can make shortbread out of it.
Yes, yeah. So you can use the needles, obviously, as an ingredient in cooking. You can infuse them into oil or into vinegars. You can, as you say, use them in cooking or shortbread, and you can make it just a simple, straightforward pine needle tea out of the needles as well. So, and that's obviously they're evergreen. They're there year round. So even in the depths of winter in this country, if you were to find a pine tree or a pine forest, you can easily harvest some pine needles at any time of the year.
Yeah, fantastic. I never thought about making pine needle tea. What would be
Yeah,
the
it's
benefits?
really quite
So you
refreshing.
still get the antifungal benefits
Yeah,
with
you will
that.
still get the antifungal benefits. So the resinous part of the tree, so resins aren't extracted particularly well in water solution. So a hot water extract will draw out some of the active volatile constituents from pine needles. But if you want to extract the resins and the more dense volatile compounds, then you would probably need an oil and heat, or you would need to do a high strength alcohol extract. So you're looking at something like at least 60%, but preferably up to 90% alcohol to extract the resins. So yeah, you need that kind of stronger alcohol to act as a salt
extraction.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then you can obviously dilute that down, you know, for internal use, because you wouldn't really want to be ingesting straight 90% alcohol. That's not going to do you any favours. So you can dilute it down quite significantly if you want to use that as an internal medicine. Yeah, some undesirable effects.
So can you talk us through February's wild medicine?
Yeah, so of course it's going to depend very much whereabouts in the country you are. So obviously, well, funnily enough, Sunday there, I noticed that it was 15.5 degrees, which is crazy warm for January. And then the next month it was I think overnight it was -2, something like that. So the temperature fluctuations at the moment are a little bit crazy. So I think some of the plants are tentatively starting to come out and then going, oh my goodness, it's still a bit cold. So yeah, it's going to depend on how those temperatures fluctuate over the next couple of weeks as to what we can expect to see. However, the wild garlic is officially poking through, especially in southern parts of Scotland. So if you're away down in the borders or Galloway, that kind of neck of the woods, even Glasgow, south of Glasgow, the central belt, you'll definitely be able to get the first few tender shoots of wild garlic. And I know that around here there's some poking through as well. So that's I always love this time of year for those first few wild garlic shoots that are like super strong, super pungent, because it just feels like, yes, that's it. That's like spring is returning. Spring is on its way.
Yes.
The winter is over. The wild garlic is through, and the snowdrops are out. You know.
Yes. And the bounties are going to appear. I mean, I think even since I came back from holiday, it's much lighter, and
yes,
you can definitely see it in the morning. And of course, because the weather has been, well, a lot of times there's been some really nice clear days, so you can really see the natural light, and oh my god, it just fills your heart with hope.
Absolutely, it's a hopeful time, and that's what Imbolc is, you know. So today obviously is Imbolc. It's the when we start to notice that return of the light, and it's a real kind of time of hope when you can feel that light returning, and you really just start to notice the first little kind of turnings of spring or late winter, and then you get these winds and gales and things that that make you realize that it's not quite over yet.
Yeah, I know, it's so easy to get lulled into a false sense of security. When I came back on Sunday, and then I took the dog out, and it was horrendous. It was blowing a gale. The beach, there wasn't a beach, and then on the Monday, it was absolutely gorgeous.
Glorious.
I'm not sure if the day's right, but it was one day it just went from this, ridiculous to the sublime, and I actually stopped the car and went in for a swim. I thought it just looks
nice,
so gorgeous. And then you're like, oh, spring's in the air. And then today it was mental again.
I know, it's just mad. Anyway, so the garlic's through. What else have we got coming up? You should be finding some chickweed now as well. That should be, well, maybe not quite yet, but certainly in some parts you'll be finding some of the really early greens coming through. Winter purslane as well, if you have that growing around locally, that should be starting to poke through over the next few weeks. Yep, winter purslane. What else have we got? I mean, towards the end of the month, if you're in a milder area, you might even start to see things like the first shoots of ground elder coming up, or plantain, even maybe the first nettles, although here for us, they're usually into March. Or sometimes even into April, depending on what kind of a spring we have. But yeah, it's definitely time to start opening your eyes for some of those young, fresh, early greens, which are much needed after a long winter. There will also be some medicinal mushrooms around still, so you might still be finding turkey tail that's good to harvest. You might still be finding some birch polypore, although it tends to be starting to go over a bit at this time of year. And what I found the other day was some jelly ear mushrooms. So that's another winter species that's quite easy to identify and pretty widely distributed and definitely edible. So there's still a few kind of winter mushrooms around that you'll be looking at finding at the moment as well. And of course, our medicinal seaweeds that I spoke about in last month's foraging episode. So that's your laver in particular at the moment is a very good one to harvest. And then, moving into those kind of early spring species, you've got your bladderwrack and things like that. But we're not quite at the peak of seaweed springtime joy yet.
Yeah. So could you talk a little bit, because I know so many people have got chest issues and coughs. I mean, everybody's talking about the 100-day cough. What would
Yeah,
be, how you
yeah,
find it with clients?
definitely. I've had quite a few patients this week who've had some pretty full-on respiratory infections. One person who has literally been coughing for a month, gradually getting better, but reporting that she'd never felt so unwell in her life. Another patient who was actually hospitalised and ended up on oxygen therapy. I will just point out that he did stop taking his herbal mix 4 days before he got sick. He's not had a cold in 4 years, and he stopped taking his herbal mix and then got sick. Anyway, these things happen, but thankfully he's on the road to recovery. But yeah, there's definitely some really nasty chesty coughs and things going around at the moment. So, and of course it is that kind of tail end of winter. Our systems are run down. The weather's still rubbish. We're maybe not getting out and about as much as we should be. Our vitamin D stores, if we haven't been supplementing or eating vitamin D rich foods, will be at their lowest at the moment. So, it is that kind of time where, our systems are open to infection and our immune systems are at risk. So anything you can do to help support your immune system. So again, the pine would be a great choice for that. The medicinal mushrooms, as I mentioned, are always great to help support immune function. Personally, I do take a vitamin D supplement over the winter just to help support my immune system. And then, take a holidays to the Canaries to top that vitamin D up as well. If I could prescribe everyone a holiday in the sunshine in the winter, it would all be fine.
Absolutely, because even although I was in the cold, I was in the Alps, it was bright and sunny, and obviously with the snow all around, the light was incredible. And just the energy of the mountains, I felt incredible. It makes such a difference, doesn't it?
It really
If you
does.
can, I do understand I was very privileged to be there, but
Absolutely.
it can be a challenging time of year for people's health right now. That's the main thing.
It
And in
really can.
terms of the cough, would you recommend that cough syrup with the onions and the sugar?
Yeah, so you will find that recipe in the book. There is a recipe which is a really simple, straightforward recipe. You've probably got those ingredients sitting in your cupboards at the moment. So it's an onion syrup. Onions have antibacterial, antifungal, and antiviral properties. You can also add in some garlic as an extra kind of added boost. And so you're basically layering sugar with onions and garlic if you want. And leaving it overnight, and basically by the next morning you'll have a cough syrup. You do need to keep that one in the fridge because obviously it's a cold method syrup, and you're not heating the sugar, you're not measuring the quantities, so you don't know whether it's how well preserved it will be out of the fridge. So you want to be keeping that one in the fridge and using it up as quickly as you can. But that is a very effective and very old recipe as a treatment for cough. If people have still got elderberries around from back in the autumn, maybe you've made some of the elderberry cordial or syrup that's in the recipe that's in the book. That's a really great remedy for viral infections in particular. and any kind of warming spices that you can add into, herbal teas or even into your cooking, ginger, cinnamon, black pepper, chili, all these kind of spices can really, really help to move the blood, move the circulation, reduce infection. So, adding all those things in will make a massive difference. And I spoke last time about, warming foods and, how important it is in this kind of cold, damp climate to have cooked and warming foods in the winter. And I really noticed my choice of foods changing when I was away in a hot climate. I just wanted to eat loads of raw veg and loads of salads and things, and really light foods. Whereas I come back here and I just want to eat stews and soup and warming foods. It's very much, we're so affected by our external environment. So it's really important to eat in response to that.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's never actually talked about is the temperature of the country and the humidity, i.e. dampness, of where you live. It's always about, the Mediterranean diet. I mean, again, if there was no supermarkets, you would have to eat what was in season right now, which would be all your root veggies. You would have your animal or your fish proteins or whatever to keep you going, and everything would be fully hydrated, really easy for the body to digest, but very nourishing and warming.
Yeah, yeah.
I find even
in Scotland time of year it would have been oats and neeps and kale, maybe the odd carrot and parsnip if you were really lucky, and of course your onions. So I'm not suggesting that we should all be eating that on a daily basis, but warming cooked foods and root vegetables for this time of year. And as the seasons progress, nature shows us what we should be including into our diet, so we do start to see some of those really pungent, spicy early greens coming in at the moment, which have, the wild garlic, for example, has fantastic immune supporting properties, and it doesn't just keep vampires away, it keeps nasty bugs and infections away as well. So these things start to creep in as we need them through the year.
And can you talk a little bit about infections? Because obviously so many I think we generally speak and think of an infection as something like, a major thing that's very obvious that you probably need to get antibiotics for. But in actual fact, a lot of us are carrying low-lying infections in the body without really being fully aware of it.
Yeah, and I think, obviously we know that our we're not all just human. We've got all these, as you say, pathogens and different microbes and things living in us, on us, around us all the time. And really the way that I see it as a vast generalization is, infections take hold when there's something not quite right going on in the body. So if your immune system is low for whatever reason, then that gives a chance for infections to take a hold. So what we're always trying to do from a herbal perspective with infection is we're trying to strengthen the person. We're trying to improve immune system function and improve the circulation and improve the body's natural ability to cope with any kind of attack. And in that way, we're always bringing the body back into balance and back into harmony. So, we wouldn't necessarily be trying to eradicate those pathogens. In some cases we are, but most of the time we're just trying to bring things back into balance so that, there's not one bacteria or virus taking a hold. It's a pretty complex subject, isn't it? But generally, what I would say is the best thing that you can do is to try and keep yourself as well as you possibly can. By eating well, by getting as much sleep as you possibly can, by keeping your fluid levels up, by managing your stress levels, by eating the right foods, and obviously making some space for rest and play and fun and all those things as well. And that is probably the best way to keep yourself as well as you possibly can. That lowers your risk of many types of chronic illness, including infection.
Yeah, I tell you what, I'm seeing a lot of is adrenal madness. just running in adrenaline and unable to switch off from that. Is that something that you're seeing as well?
Yeah, it's something I see a lot of in my practice, and people on the verge of burning out because they're, as you say, doing too much or taking on too much or pushing themselves too far, or just spinning too many plates or just too much stress. So, and then that is just a characteristic of modern life, isn't it? But there's a lot that we can do, and you've got so many tools in your kit that you are so keen to share with the world, to help us manage our emotional stress levels. So
Yeah,
that's such
well,
a part of it.
we did the intermittent fasting again in January for the Heal Scotland Challenge,
Mm,
and it blows me away the testimonies I get about it. I'll put them together again, and then we finished off with a 1 to 3 day fast just to introduce people to the idea of having a day or more without food, depending on. Well, just it's so empowering, and you feel so different.
mm,
And now we're moving into February's breath work. And I don't know about you, but you obviously, I know that you recommend you've got herbs, but you recommend other things as well. Because I think for me, one of the big things is sense of humor. If you're not finding your life fun and joy, in
absolutely.
between all the madness that happens inevitably to all of us, then that's really a sign that you're going to be running on these stress hormones and they're never going to come out. So when you're trying to get people to balance their inflammation or to relieve chronic anxiety or chronic depression or anything that's going on that's making you feel unhappy, then usually you can look at the food, but you have to bring some other things in as well. There is no one magic. Everybody's like, oh, this vitamin or this superfood, and it's really not like that, is it? Because ultimately, it's about what you do every day, and the 23 hours of that day that you're not seeing us, and the rest of the week. All of that every single day. Am I taking myself towards vitality and health and excitement for life, or am I taking myself away from it? And I
Absolutely.
think that, our world, a more holistic world, is going a little bit allopathic as well. It's buy this, buy this, buy this, buy this. And it's, that's what I feel for people. It's a shame. It's overwhelmed. How do you know what to do, what to take, where to start? And, it's just a kind of try a wee bit of everything approach and never really getting the results that you desire. And you said something there about using the herbs as preventative, which I don't know why I never really thought about that before, but that'd be an obvious thing to do in the winter when there's more stuff around. Is start,
Yeah,
take.
absolutely. And one of the things that I quite often teach on my winter wellness courses is making fire cider. And that can be used as a kind of general tonic, if you like, to be taken daily throughout the winter to just help with immune system function. It's, a warming circulatory tonic, so it helps with relieving cold and damp symptoms. So, joint pain, rheumatism, poor circulation, and also obviously supporting immune health. And it's a really simple thing that anybody can make in their kitchen, and it shouldn't, break the bank. So that's a very straightforward thing that you can do, which is basically, it is a food. Essentially it's just a whole mixture of different food-based spices that you can use prophylactically. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I need to get my fire cider still up at Barmoloch. I'm going up this weekend, so I'll go and I'll take it back down because
So,
my aunt has a bad cough as well, and my wee grandson, he gets sent home from school. I mean, that's weeks. It's before I went on holiday. He wasn't well, so I thought I'll make that onion cough syrup and get the fire cider down and see if we can make a wee bit of an impact on it.
yeah, and if you mix it with a little bit of honey as well, it makes it a bit more palatable. And obviously, honey adds its beneficial compounds to the mixture as well, and much easier to take if you're giving it to kids.
Yes, absolutely. And can you talk a bit about honey? Because that's another product that they've really taken and turned into a whole load of crap as well, haven't they?
Well, that's it, and I think, you know, Manuka honey, because it obviously has been well studied and there's been a lot of research on it, you know, and it does have lots of beneficial health properties. But now it's, you know, it's an absolute fortune for a jar of Manuka honey, and I suppose some anecdotal evidence, and there are some small studies that suggest that local honey to your area has similar benefits. Some of the studies that have been done on honey show that they can help with allergic rhinitis associated with obviously different hay fever, basically.
Mm.
So if you were to take a local, I suppose it's almost possibly works like homeopathy, where you're getting a small amount of pollen, and that helps decrease the sensitivity to certain species of pollen. So yeah, there are studies that show that local honey can reduce the severity of hay fever symptoms, but it's got to be a
Yeah,
honey from where you are around, basically.
live. Uh-huh. I think finding somebody that locally to you
Yeah.
um, is the best thing, isn't it? But if you're just looking to actually sweeten something, you still want honey that's a decent quality.
Yeah, you want a good quality honey. You probably want a raw, unpasteurized honey if you can get it,
Mm-hmm.
because once you start pasteurizing things and overheating them, then you tend to, you know, kill off all the good bacteria that are in those raw foods. And obviously, bees make honey as their food. They're going to put the good stuff in there. They also make royal jelly and propolis, which we know have antimicrobial properties as well, and have a beneficial effect on the immune system. So I think honey does have some of those properties as well. So it does obviously have some, and you know, you can actually apply it to wounds as well, and it will help to heal wounds. So it is a great thing. I don't use an awful lot of honey myself because I just feel like it's such a precious thing, and yeah, so I do use a little bit of it medicinally, but not huge amounts. I mean, I think I was given a jar of honey by a friend who has bees on her land in August, and it's still, you know, it's still going strong in my cupboard because I just really use a small amount of it. I
Yeah.
don't know, it feels like such a precious thing to me.
No, I'm the same. I use very sparingly because it does feel precious.
Yeah, and because it is such a sweet thing as well, you know. Obviously, it's better than having refined sugar, but it's still a sweet food. You know, it's still got high kind of calorific value and high carbohydrate. So yeah, it does have beneficial properties, but you still probably want to be using it fairly sparingly as a food.
Mhm. I read an article today that some of the bees have been found with levels of aluminium in them,
Mm,
and from the pesticides. So
yeah,
sad. It's
yeah.
like, oh, of course. But then if they're poisoning us, it's going to be poisoning them,
Well,
I'm
that's
sure.
it. Well, we're polluting our world, and nobody is getting away scot-free. Like, it's
Uh,
affecting us all. Um,
all the birds and bees, and yeah, it's such a shame. So right, so let's talk about. Obviously, we've got the Wild Medicine festivals coming up, but we also have our biannual retreat.
dun,
So
dun,
we've got
dun.
one in April, and then
That's-
we've got another one in November. So we're coming up.
yeah.
This is our very first wild medicine retreat in Loch Allen, at the Highland Base Camp there, which is just a gorgeous setting, beautiful space, and it's very close to your medicine garden.
That's right. Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so tell us what. Well, I mean, obviously, one of the big things in our retreats is the food because we are big foodies.
Yep.
Um, so we tend to do the intermittent fasting thing there. So we do a lot of things in the morning, then we have a beautiful big brunch, and then we have the dinner at night, which will still be the same thing, but we've got an extra special thing coming in as well, haven't we? In April.
Yes, we are going to be collaborating with the White House restaurant in April. So one of the meals is going to be based around some kind of local and some foraged ingredients. And I've been doing some collaborations with the White House over the past year or so. So we've been doing some foraged feasts, and they've very kindly offered to team up with us for the retreat. So all the lucky participants are going to be treated to a 3-course meal at the White House restaurant as part of the Scotland's Wild Medicine Retreat in, well, both ones actually, the one in April and the one which I think starts in October and runs in, it's like the end of October to November, isn't it? So I'm really excited for that, because that's a really new addition to what we offer on the retreat, and it's just so great to have the White House on board, because they're so passionate about forage foods and about local produce and trying to improve their sustainability of what they're serving. And
they're so knowledgeable as well, because I came in that last one, which was fantastic. And we just went, literally, that's what always amazes me. You just walk round, a very small space and get all this food that most people are walking past every day with their dog and probably not even notice. That's what's so fascinating about it. And then obviously we've got the beaches that you've got over there as well, but they're more inland. They're not like round the coast.
There's a few beaches around the coast, but there's also some kind of freshwater lochs as well. So there's loads of different opportunities for our cold water immersion. Really just wild and scenic and beautiful places. So if you're coming along, you're going to be treated to some properly gorgeous spots. And loads of lovely walks, and obviously you'll be doing the foraging with me. You'll be learning how to make your own seasonal remedies, and we'll be doing the intuitive herbalism as well, which is kind of plant meditation work. So it's going to be action-packed and fun-filled as ever.
Yeah, and people get to see your actual medicine garden, how you are the good life in real life, where you grow your own medicines and then where you make the medicines. And it's fantastic to see all of that in action. I mean, I don't know how many people actually go to all that bother that you go to have everything so raw and natural and dense and just the way it was meant to be.
Yeah.
But we're also going to have the biofield viewer. I'm going to be bringing that as well, so people can look into the colours of their energy system and see if there's any areas that need a little bit more flow. So we'll be able to look at that at the start of the retreat, and then maybe even in the middle. And because obviously I've been doing a lot of training on that, so I'm a lot more confident now to have a look and talk through the emotional side and the colours, the electromagnetic field that really helps people to see, what the invisible, which they probably already know, but it's just really like, so what's it? This colour's, not flowing so clearly there. Is there some issue there? And it always works, it's reading your body. So obviously it just feeds back. It's so interesting. So that's a great
put things into perspective. It's like an amazing, such an amazing technology to kind of, as you say, glimpse that side of what you can't necessarily. Yes, yeah.
And we'll have the sound baths, which will be customised to the group as well, obviously, and the breathworks, which are very tailored to the group. So it's I'm excited about it already. I mean, April's just going to be an incredible month. Got all the goddess gatherings over the next few weeks, and then we've got the festivals and the retreat. So that takes us right up to May, and then my new grandson's going to be born. So happy.
You're like an absolute, all this amazing work that you do must be paying off, Lilia, because you're so busy running from this thing to the next thing that you're just full of joy and full of energy, and it's amazing to see. So you're a good advert for what you do.
It keeps me, it keeps me sane, and it definitely, like when I was on holiday, everybody's like, you've got so much energy. I mean, I was high because I was in the Alps and all that, but it does make you realise, the protocols and keep paying a wee bit of attention can really help. You because I wasn't sure how I was going to be going on a snowboard, for hours a day. It takes a lot of energy. And yeah, no, I felt great. Really, I felt much stronger than I expected to. So that was nice. Because
Fantastic.
sometimes you're on the the downward slope. At my age, you could think, oh, well, I'll not be doing that for much longer. But I did not feel like that. It was good. So
That's
the
great.
wild medicine works. What can we say?
Success.
Well, listen, for anybody who wants to have a consultation with you, you can do the consultations online. So if
Yep,
there's
that's right.
if
Yep.
any questions that they want to ping in, please feel free. If anybody wants to have a consultation with Claire and discuss any health issues and how herbs can help, then you can do that online. So you don't even have to go to Loch Allen to see her. If you want to come on our amazing retreat in April, then I'll put the link in for that. And then we've got 2 festivals coming up as well, and we've got the book, obviously. If you've got the book there, haven't you?
Da, da,
So
da.
the reprint. So all the information that we share really is in the book. I mean, obviously we add in the retreats. Obviously change and they evolve every year and every 6 months. But the book is a brilliant way for you to have that information at your fingertips. And it's £25, but it's an encyclopedia, and it's heavy. It's clear
Yeah,
now. She's
I
had
know.
to have
I have to post them out. I have to walk to the post office with my bags full of them. It's a good workout.
I know it is actually. It is. So yeah. So please spread the word for us. And yeah, if you want to come to any of the events, go into healscotland.com. You're westhighlandherbal.co.uk.
Yeah, or .com, either one will get you there. And if you did want to book in for a consultation with me, you can do that through my website. I've got an online booking system. So, but obviously, if you wanted to talk that through beforehand, you can always contact me by email or by phone as well. And yeah, as Lilia says, to book the retreat, that's through the Heal Scotland website.
Yes, I'll put all the links down. No questions. Nobody's interested in finding out any more. We covered everything. Thank you, very informative. Thank you. My hubby loved the firesider we made with you.
Amazing. That's so good to hear.
I know. Spread the word, because all these medicines are so cheap to make. They're so powerful, but they come straight from the land. You're just taking that power right from the land into your cells. I just love it. It's this idea that, things have to come from a different country, or things have to be made in a laboratory before they work for the body. And it's the complete opposite, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's just taking the power from the land and knowing how to do it. And that's in the book. There, you can read all about how to make up your own medicines. Claire's put a glossary of how you can do that. So, but also I think coming on the retreat, it really is a great way to be practical medicine making. You actually get to do it, and I think you're more likely to repeat it when you've actually done it.
Yeah, I think there's definitely something about that, actually having a go at it and being able to say, am I doing this right? Or, oh, that's how you do that. There's something, really valuable about just actually going to a workshop and being immersed in it, rather than trying to work it out from a recipe or following a video or whatever. I definitely, when I'm learning, value those experiences where I'm, able to get hands-on and practically learn something. So it's
you're back up at Limbrick in the summer as well, aren't you? Up near Aviemore.
Yeah, I'll be back up doing it's actually, we've called it Scotland's Wild Medicine this year. So it's a foraging and medicine making event at Limbrick Croft. So that's in July this year. Can't quite remember the dates off the top of my head, but if you go onto their website.
Aye, be in the girls' website. They are coming to the Inverness Goddess Gathering.
Fantastic! Oh,
so
that's so
great
great
to have them there. Absolutely, it'd be brilliant to see them. But Sandra had told me the dates you were coming up in case I wanted to go. So it'll be. I really, if I can make it, because I loved it the last time. That farm of theirs just blows my mind.
It's such a great thing that they've done. It's a beautiful place, and the energy there is great, and the plants are super happy as well. You know, it really rubs off. I'm just having a peek in my diary for the dates for that. It is 27th, 28th of July. For those of you that are interested in that.
Yes, if anybody's up in that area and wants to go up and visit Lynbreck and do that, it's an absolutely phenomenal. Is it just a one day?
We've released the Saturday at the moment. If that fills, we'll release the Sunday as well.
Right, okay. I can tell people up in Inverness about that. Yeah. Okay, fantastic. Well, listen, it's lovely to see you. I'm glad you had a great holiday.
It's always
And,
great to chat.
and we'll be back beginning of March with March's Wild Medicine.
Fantastic. And thanks everyone for listening.
Yeah, you can have a look on and see if there's any questions that need answered, or I'll let you know if there are. Okay.
You assume that I know how to do that.
I just realised when I was saying it, I was like, no, I'll need to prompt you.
In my way, I'm afraid. Please don't ever anybody think I'm ignoring you. I'm just not very tech savvy.
Tech's hard.